So I've mentioned before that everything is about protecting the Kennedys. That's what Marjorie Taylor Greene serves. That's what the Democrats serve. That's what all of them serve. Because really, the bigger picture, when you look at Alliance for Prosperity, which was what Biden was doing with Latin America, and then you look at JFK, who was doing Alliance for Progress with Latin America, and then what you find out is that, well, trafficking increased after this, of drugs and human trafficking. Not that there wasn't always some of it going on, but it massively increased. Here's the other problem with Kennedy's desire so much to build relations with Latin America the way that he was that, well, the rat lines. So this would be what the rat line is. It was the Nazi rat lines. They're like 9,000 SS Nazis escaped to South America. Yep. And of course, who was responsible for this? None other than the Catholic Church, of course. I mean, if it wasn't the, I mean, again, just it's all seems to be that entwined problem. Irish Catholic, nothing against the Irish Catholic. But the Irish, the Catholic, the Kennedys, Latin America, the Nazis, the Nazi sympathizers, and trafficking, all today, now leading us up to now to where Trump is dealing with this problem. Yes, I mean heavily dealing with this problem. But these are the, this is the problem. Of course, it's not like the Catholic Church takes responsibility. They, of course, wouldn't, because, they don't have to take responsibility because they are all-knowing. Obviously, I'm being sarcastic. So there was, like 9,000, they believe, that that escaped to South America, and South America was more than sympathetic. Yeah. An estimated 9,000 Nazi war criminals, including SS officers, escaped to countries in South America, especially Argentina, Brazil, and Chile. Argentina was the largest recipient, with up to 5,000 Nazis reportedly settling there. This migration was facilitated by escape routes called rat lines, aided in part by the sympathetic agents, some Catholic clergy. So, and again, the politicians, if that's what you want to call them, they were more than, these were like high-ranking ones too, Nazis, I mean. They were more than sympathetic to accept them. So during this Irish Catholic's term, he brought in an Alliance for Prosperity. This was a continuing on, of course, JFK. This was JFK's Alliance for Progress. Progressive, yeah. So again, and you may wonder, well, what was this about? Well, it was about building up Latin America. This is the reason why, in the beginning, the majority of the Peace Corps, people that joined the Peace Corps, because in my opinion, the Peace Corps was just JFK's way of legalizing trafficking individuals under the guise that you must do this for your country. And he sent most of them to Africa and Latin America to build up their countries. They didn't get paid for it. They didn't have resources like when they were hurt or treated like slaves or molested or raped, which has been an ongoing problem in the Peace Corps. That should be eliminated, in my opinion, just because that was his intention. That's the reason he made it clear, I'm not here to do anything for you Americans. I'm here to hurt America. I don't care what anybody in this country thinks. That's exactly what his presidency was all about. And of course, this was 2014, and time to revive the spirit of Kennedy-era Alliance for Progress. So yes, it was building up, and Kennedy brought this, in the ways that he brought this, first of all, it was a total failure, okay? But he brought this, that this is how we need to build relations. Everybody he wanted to build relations with was enemies to us. Okay? See, part of the problem, that the reason the Bay of Pigs and Eisenhower and the CIA set that up was because South Americans were flying into Cuba, getting guerrilla warfare training after World War II, and that needed to stop. Like, because they were getting trained in psychological warfare and guerrilla training. And then flying back to South America. So the Bay of Pigs was meant to end that. Again, what did Kennedy do? Well, his focus was he wanted to go after the CIA. Will anybody in this country say it? No, but I'm telling you, if you have a brain and you have common sense and you read the JFK files, it's easy to see what Kennedy was trying to do. But it's not just that. I've mentioned, it's like Kennedy and MLK were working in synchronicity, okay? Because while JFK and the Kennedys went after the CIA, MLK's coming up the back end going after the FBI, the very organizations that would go after people that were trying to hurt our country. So that's the reason he messed up the Bay of Pigs. But Kennedy, JFK, and MLK very much were in alignment with this. It's MLK served to get the civil going for things. But again, MLK had no love for this country either. Again, him and his Hollywood people were raising money to bring Kenya, African people here, when he could have been giving that money that he raised to Black Americans. Neither of these men cared about actual Americans. While Kennedy worked through formal policy initiatives toward Latin America, King's connection was more symbolic and activist-driven, helping inspire grassroots movements for dignity, equality, and justice in the Americas. JFK and MLK shared a broader commitment to social justice and civil rights that connected to issues in Latin America through though their roles and contexts were different. It's like it was a coordinated, that's why everything just seemed to, like the gates of hell opened up when JFK was elected. Yes, and it was in 1961 that the Alliance for Progress he announced this Alliance for Progress. So that's why in 2020, in Joe Biden's presidency, another Irish Catholic. Again, we've only had 2 Catholic presidents, JFK and Biden. But of course, Obama was serving the same JFK agenda. All the Democrats have. This is where social justice came in, was with the Kennedys. They certainly were no friends to America. I don't care what anybody says. Will anybody ever say it? No, they won't. But it's common sense if you read the JFK files. But when it says here, there's historical discussion that the Alliance for Progress was part of President Kennedy's New Frontier vision, which aligned with some of King's goals for social and economic justice. The initiatives emphasized addressing structural poverty, injustice in the hemisphere, parallel themes King championed in the U.S. Yeah, it was all about basically, America trying to control all these other countries, and he was never doing anything for Americans. But he made it clear when he said it's not what your country will do for you, it's what you'll do for your country. That should have been the red flag, but instead everyone went, ooh, ah. The alliances and U.S. policies in Latin America, including the Alliance for Progress and subsequent initiatives, did have unintended consequences related to the illegal drug trade into the United States. Not to mention, it increased drug cartels and trafficking, including human trafficking. All your social justice and communist and Marxist agendas started with JFK. Not that there wasn't some of them there before, but they skyrocketed under JFK with the Catholic cooperation, of course, the Ireland cooperation, because again, all Nazi sympathizers, all the same problem over and over.